Welcome to the Technology and Energy Panel talk here at the ISH Digital 2021. Today's topic is the largest energy source in the heating market in terms of volume, namely gas. We will talk about the future prospects of gas, specifically green gases and hydrogen, and what contribution this energy source can make to achieving climate targets. I want to welcome Dr. Timm Kehler, Managing Director of Zukunft Gas. And I'd also like to welcome Professor Gerald Linke from the DVGW. That's the German Association for Gas and Water. Welcome. Dr. Kehler, the first question is for you. Up to last year, Zukunft Gas, future gas in English, was still called Zukunft Erdgas, future natural gas in English. Why this relaunch, this renaming? And to what extent will this change the work of the Zukunft Gas initiative? To put it simply, the name now actually fits the program. For years we have been dealing with the question, how can gas become green? How can we better realize the ambitions of the gas industry to move towards climate neutrality in 2050? That's what's behind the name Zukunft Gas. We want to promote the entire family of energy gases. Today that's natural gas. This is our main business. In the future it will be biomethane and, of course, hydrogen. If we look first at the existing situation, what role does gas currently play in the heating market? We've seen a very successful year despite the adverse circumstances last year. The gas industry has shown that it can supply Germany with energy even in critical situations. Natural gas currently accounts for about a quarter of Germany's energy supply. And we are also seeing an uninterrupted trend towards gas heating. Our member companies are reporting record numbers of installations to the distribution network. The switch from oil to gas heating is in full swing, and we see this in the encouraging figures from the heating industry. Never before have so many gas condensing boilers been installed as last year. The EU Green Deal aims to make Europe carbon neutral by 2050. What are the prospects then for gas as an energy source? We need to make the gas system green, of course. We have to achieve climate neutrality. So an energy source that emits CO2 during combustion needs to change too. That's why we're working on solutions on how to actually produce climate-neutral hydrogen from natural gas, which can then be brought into home heating systems, for example, via the distribution network. We believe the gas system will remain the defining component. Of course, we'll have to change which gases move through the system. But natural gas will also play a role in the long term as a primary material for hydrogen production. There have recently been isolated statements in energy policy circles that hydrogen should initially not be used in the heating market. What is your opinion on that? Today, natural gas is a common energy source, and of course, we need energy that's available to large sections of the population in the long term. The 20 million customers who currently have a reliable, inexpensive power or heat supply from natural gas also need perspectives for the future. So we believe hydrogen has a role to play in the heating market in the long term. I think what we're observing in the discussion today are more like snapshots of the development around green hydrogen. But there's also great potential for large quantities of climate-neutral hydrogen to be made available so that hydrogen can really become the popular energy source for the heating revolution in Germany. What options already exist for using hydrogen in the heating market? For example, we have a great technical platform in the form of the fuel cell. It already operates with hydrogen internally and is connected to the natural gas grid. In future, the fuel cell could also be supplied directly with hydrogen. Of course, we're aware of the intense efforts of the heating industry to make their appliances hydrogen-ready, so that developments that are now being actively promoted, first with addition and eventually with 100% conversion to make the system climate neutral, will then also find their counterparts in the heating system. The heating systems that exist today have to be converted, of course. But this is a much smaller step than a major restructuring of Germany towards a completely different heating supply system. If I want to bring my heating system up to date with current energy policy, regardless of whether it's a new or old building, what would you advise me to do? The first step is always to make sure energy efficiency, that is, energy conservation, is implemented, and this calls for very simple and quite tangible measures. This means exchanging the old heating system for a new heating system. This means simple insulation measures that still haven't been implemented in many houses, such as insulating the basement ceiling or the roof. This alone can achieve very, very large CO2 savings. The next step is to integrate renewables, for example, by installing a solar thermal energy system on the roof or expanding the current gas condensing boiler into a hybrid system so that I can integrate renewables via an electric heat pump. The institutions that are already recognized as trustworthy partners will help you with that. These include installers, energy consultants, not to mention the many energy supply companies that have a very clear interest in going the path towards climate neutrality.
Die ein ganz klares Interesse daran haben, auch mit Ihnen gemeinsam den Weg in Richtung Klimaneutralität zu gestalten.
If we look at the existing gas infrastructure, we have 500,000 kilometers of gas pipelines in Germany. How will this gas infrastructure fare in the future? Well, we've spent decades building that infrastructure, so it's a very valuable asset, and it's the gateway to 1.6 million customers. 755 terawatt-hours of energy is stored in the distribution grids. That's more than 75%. We'll also need this infrastructure for the transformation path. It already allows hydrogen to be transported to the end customer and later perhaps even pure hydrogen. We can't do this without this infrastructure. Its volume is twice as valuable as that of the power grid too, because twice as much energy is transported via the gas infrastructure in Germany. What needs to happen politically to make the existing gas infrastructure hydrogen compatible? And how effective do you think the amendment to the Energy Industry Act recently passed by Cabinet is? The amendment to the Energy Industry Act firmly establishes hydrogen as an energy source for the first time. However, it takes a separate approach with regard to regulation and recognition of the costs of hydrogen networks. This is fatal. We need to think about the whole system in terms of the targets. We want hydrogen and natural gas networks to merge one day. This is not inherent in the current structure of the Energy Industry Act. What we need to do is to extend the regulations for the existing natural gas networks to hydrogen networks, and we also need to find a way to easily and cost-effectively bring hydrogen into the market, for example with additions. What role do you see for hydrogen, biogas and biomethane in the heating market of the future? Biomethane already plays a special role today. The potential we've identified for biomethane is enormous and amounts to around 300 terawatt-hours. This is 1/3 of present-day turnover. Biomethane is chemically identical to natural gas. This means that all applications can be switched to biogas, whether you're talking about boilers, stoves or industrial applications. We can't afford to let this potential go to waste. Hydrogen takes us one step further. So you have to think about both together. But biogas is an obvious first step. That brings us to the end of the program. Today we've talked about gas as an energy source and have seen that gas is definitely ready for the Green Deal, from green gases through to hydrogen. I'd like to thank Dr. Timm Kehler from Zukunft Gas and Professor Gerald Linke from the DVGW for the fascinating discussion. And I wish you an exciting ISH Digital 2021.